I deployed to Iraq twice during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and while there was a lot of long days, a lot of crazy hours and stuff, there was still nonetheless some time off, some free time here and there. So I want to kind of tell you what it was that specifically I did with my free time when it was available while deployed to a combat zone, and that video starts right now. Let's go. So if you're not familiar, I deployed twice to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. The first time was to Tal Afar, which was in the northern part of Iraq. That was for 12 months. The second time I deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. That one was for 15 months. And during each deployment, it was different as far as how much free time I had and what I could do with that free time based on what was kind of just available, I guess. Now, while I say that I had free time, it was a little bit here and there, and that definitely varies based on, a lot of different situations. You might talk to some veterans that were deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan and they had barely any free time, and then you might talk to some people and they had a ton of free time. For me, I think it's somewhere maybe in the middle. There wasn't really a lot of free time, but it wasn't like a thing where I didn't have any free time either. There was definitely moments where I had more free time compared to other times, but out of all that time when I did have free time, there was never a point where I ever had like a day off or a day that I could sleep in. It was always just like blocks or chunks of time here and there that maybe I had an hour, a couple hours, whatever, of free time to kind of do some stuff and kind of unwind a little bit. So let's talk about some of the stuff that I did during my free time. The first one we'll start off with was probably what I did most of the time, I think, maybe, with my free time. That was watch movies or TV shows. So you didn't have TV. I actually did my second deployment. My first deployment I didn't, though. My first deployment, no TV or anything else like that. I had my laptop. You would get these DVDs, or you'd have stuff on your hard drive that maybe you got from other people where they had like movies or TV shows, and you would watch those shows off of your laptop usually. So specifically, like with my first deployment, there were some moments here and there where I was able to like watch a lot of shows. I watched a lot of Smallville, I watched a lot of Seinfeld, and a lot of that mainly became because they had these bazaars, or these haji shops, as we would call them, where you could buy like DVDs. Not all the DVDs were legit DVDs. I mean, I don't know how we were kind of allowed to get away with that, or the military just didn't really care, but most, if not pretty much, I'd say 99% of the DVDs that you were buying from these haji shops were pirated DVDs. Some of them would be like a whole box set of like an entire season of a show, and that's how I ended up with I think all of the seasons of Seinfeld or something like that, and then like a bunch of seasons of like Smallville. I had several movies and everything that I watched on these DVDs as well. Some of these movies are like brand new movies that are just coming out in theaters, and it's like a handy cam or whatever, a camcorder. If someone in a movie theater filming the screen, you hear someone eating popcorn, a couple people walk past the camera here and there, but a lot of times that's how you had to watch some of the movies, especially like new releases. My second deployment in Baghdad, we did get AFN TV. That's like kind of the military's television type of network type of thing. And they would have like reruns of TV shows and some sporting events and everything too. And you could easily just connect the cable line to, a TV if you had one in these little they're called chews, these small little rooms that we had. I did that a little bit, but most of the stuff was still coming off my laptop, either like DVDs or stuff from a hard drive. I remember I had one buddy that me and him, we were exchanging like movies and stuff like that. He always had a way of getting all the new episodes of Smallville, because I was really big into Smallville when it was kind of going on. And he also really liked Smallville, so he was getting new episodes somehow, I think from a buddy that was like, I don't know, sending them to him on a hard drive or on a DVD or something. And so he'd give me like copies, and I'd like download them onto my computer so I could watch the new episodes. One of the cool things I remember was I had bought this one movie called The Descent. If you've never seen it, pretty cool. These women that are going inside this cave, and they're exploring through the cave, and then they come across these monsters. So great quality movie and everything like that. I figured like it was an old movie or an independent film or something like that. And then I remember going back to the States, and I started seeing previews for this movie on TV, and it was talking about how it was coming out in like another month or something like that. And I remember watching the movie trailers, be like, what, how's that possible? I've already got the DVD, I've already seen this movie, and it's not even out in theaters yet. It turns out the copy that I had was from the Independent Film Festival, where it kind of gained some traction, and then a major motion picture company ended up buying it. They changed the ending a little bit, so the ending that I had was a little bit different compared to the American release, and then that was the version that was going to theaters. So I ended up getting to see the movie before, like a month or so before it was even in theaters. Now, another thing that I did on my free time was get some fast food type of thing that we had available. Now, on my first deployment, that wasn't existent. We were in a very remote fob. It barely even had PX stuff. It had a little semi-trailer. You can get a few things here and there, and you had the Bazaar. You can get like the pirated movies I just talked about, but that was about it. And then you had the DFAC and stuff. So there was really nothing, for extra food, type of things other than what was in the chow hall. You can get a little bit of snacks from like that little semi-trailer for the PX, but that was about it. It wasn't until my second deployment that I actually got pretty spoiled with our abilities to be able to have other ways of getting food other than the chow hall or the DFAC. On Baghdad International Airport, we actually had Taco Bell, Cinnabon, they had Popeyes, I think they had a like a little Pizza Hut kind of a thing. So you're pretty spoiled on Baghdad International Airport. Sometimes I'll mess around with some of my coworkers and friends and stuff like that, talking about like, oh man, I remember I had it rough in Baghdad. And there's this one time that Popeyes was out of chicken, so I had to go to Taco Bell and get tacos. I mean, just had to settle for tacos. And the fun part about that is like a lot of these people were, like maybe like tankers or infantry, and they were stuck in these more remote outposts or cops that didn't have none of that stuff. So like I said, my first deployment, I didn't have any of that stuff. But my second deployment, I was pretty spoiled with that stuff. So it was kind of a fun kind of experience, if I had some free time to, instead of going to the chow hall, go to Taco Bell, go to that Pizza Hut or whatever, and kind of enjoy some food other than the chow hall food. Normally, like if you're busy with missions, you didn't really have time to go do that stuff. You had to go to the chow hall, get something to eat, get back to it, go on mission, maybe go grab a to-go plate from the chow hall because you're getting ready to go on mission pretty soon. But when you had a little bit more free time, then maybe it was a little bit easier to go do those kinds of things. So if I had the free time, and I did try to do it all the time because obviously you're still spending money to do that, where you can just go to the chow hall or the DFAC and eat for free. But nonetheless, if I had some free time and it wasn't, getting too repetitive, then I would go eat Taco Bell, or me and some people would go over to the Pizza Hut and get a pizza and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun when you had the extra time to be able to do so. By the way, if you're digging the sweet polo I got going on here, well, Father's Day is coming up and it could be the right gift for that dad that you know. Maybe your dad, maybe a spouse, maybe a friend of yours, whatever. This is actually a grunt style polo. This could be legitimately a great gift that that individual could need maybe for work. I actually have used this for work. I have another black grunt style polo shirt that I use for work. And they also got some really cool dad themed shirts that they're actually kind of promoting right now for Father's Day. Best of all, if it's your first time ordering from Grunt Style, you can utilize the promo code Chaos Army and you can get 25% off your first purchase. So you can get several shirts and get a good little discount off your purchase. Check out all the cool Father's Day shirts, the polos that they got going on. There's a lot of great gift ideas for maybe someone that would make a great gift for Father's Day. So check out the link down in the description box down below. Make sure you use that promo code. Let's get back into the video. Another thing that I did on my free time, of course, sleep, especially, when you really needed to catch up on it because you were just so busy and got very little sleep the day before or something. There was times where you have like a night mission, especially during a lot of these deployments, usually you did your main operations during the night because, the local populace wasn't allowed to be out at night. So it was a little bit safer to a certain extent to be out during the night. So that's a lot of times when we do these missions. So you might be doing some stuff during the day, get some vehicles ready, and then you have some free time. They told you, okay, you're gonna be doing this in motor pool, getting the trucks ready, and then we have this free time between now and this time before we need to be back to get ready to start mission. And a lot of times you needed to use that to kind of get some sleep because you're gonna be up all night, all through the night. You weren't gonna be back until probably like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So you weren't gonna be able to sleep that night. So you better get in some sleep before you start that mission. So, when you got the opportunity, you would try to get some sleep. Maybe it was another thing where, you were done working on something and they told you, hey, we need to be back at this time to go do some stuff. Maybe sometimes you just caught up on some sleep. So often, if you had that available, that was the best to do, especially when you're really busy with sometimes hectic mission after mission after mission, especially these night missions where, you're out all night and then you come back and maybe get some sleep then, and then you have to be back in the motor pool by the afternoon or whatever. And so you only got maybe a couple of hours of sleep to be able before you had to get back to mission. So, definitely on those more, busier days, you would try to use that free time to just catch up on some sleep. Also in my free time, I like to, surf on the internet. It was a little bit harder to do it during my first deployment, a little easier on my second deployment, mainly because my first deployment, the only way you had to use the internet, you had these little tents. They had these internet cafe kind of a thing where you go to the tent, you go and you sign in, and you get in line. You usually had like a 30-minute, time limit unless there was no wait. If there was nobody else waiting, then you usually could stay on for a lot longer, but there was pretty much most of the time a wait. So you go and you sign in and then you get on a computer and you can use it for 30 minutes to check email, to chat with some friends, you know, through Yahoo Messenger, you know, was kind of the big thing to be able to do it that way. Maybe surf, I think you had MySpace still then, you know, type of thing. So check some social media and all that kind of stuff. During my second deployment, I had a little bit more opportunities to be able to get on the internet because we had, again, kind of like a little cyber cafe type of thing to be able to use the internet, but you also had like the Red Cross had internet available. It was kind of a similar type of setup where you usually had to sign in, and if there's nobody else waiting, then you use the internet longer. Otherwise, there's like usually like a 30-minute max type of thing. But you also had like internet available at your little rooms that you could use through your laptops. That internet was not very good, and it was also really expensive. I think the internet was maybe a max of like a 5 megabits download probably type of thing, and you were paying, I think it was like $80 a month or something. You know, it was definitely not worth $80 a month, but you didn't really have much of a choice if you wanted internet in your room without having to go somewhere to go use the internet. So, you know, nonetheless, you know, you use social media, chat with people, friends and family back home, all that kind of stuff, and utilizing the internet was always pretty important, you know, to be able to keep up on what was happening back in the States. It was tough. I remember watching YouTube. YouTube would load really, really slow, but sometimes I would try to catch up on YouTube videos. I wasn't really doing a lot of YouTube stuff at that time. I think I was, you know, doing some music videos with some local bands and a few other things, but I wasn't really very active with actually creating content on YouTube at that point in time. So I was more of an individual that was interested in watching content on YouTube, and it was really hard to do that. Now, one last thing that I'll talk about that I like to do on my free time when I was deployed to a combat zone, of course, as you probably would expect, I like to make videos. I was still making videos even on those deployments. My first deployment, I feel like maybe I did a little bit more video stuff on my first deployment. I did like a little mini documentary about myself, about what I was doing over there. I had some fun with some music videos. I did a cool Metallica one that I can't show you, otherwise probably copyright striked or something like that. But I re-edited a Metallica video for The Unnamed Feeling was the name of the song, to kind of mix in some Iraq footage that I had captured with Metallica playing, and I really liked that video. That video was pretty cool. We also did some other fun stuff. Remember, we did this little video for like kind of like a Jackass type of thing where we were doing some pranks and some fun stuff in the motor pool when we were getting ready to like clean some stuff out, and we just had some free time to kind of goof around a little bit. My second deployment, I don't remember doing as many videos. There was a few things here and there. I had some fun with some friends, making some content, putting together some other kind of, you know, video stuff of what I was doing over in Iraq, but it didn't really seem like I was doing quite as much video stuff in my second deployment, but nonetheless, I still have like a lot of footage that I captured. So I was still having fun capturing footage and everything. My idea was I was gonna make like a sequel to that little documentary that I did for my first deployment, and I didn't really do a good job of capturing enough footage or the right kind of footage on my second deployment to really put anything really good together. So I didn't end up creating any kind of cool documentary for my second deployment. It's still always been a thing of mine where I wanted to try to see if I couldn't piece something together, and I haven't gotten around to it. I don't really know if I do have enough footage to be able to put anything together worthwhile. I think a lot of it would still be just me talking and not showing a lot of footage, because it was kind of limited on what I was recording, because a lot of the operations I was doing on my second deployment was at night. So it was really hard to be able to record what I was doing at night. We weren't really supposed to, so I really couldn't capture that footage and everything. So it was a little bit tougher to kind of capture a lot of what I was doing during my second deployment. But nonetheless, I was still, you know, staying active a little bit here and there, creating a few videos here and there, you know, during my second deployment. So on my free time, you know, both deployments, creating videos was of course something I tried to make time for. For my veteran viewers out there, if you have deployed, whether it's to a combat environment or a non-combat environment, doesn't really matter, maybe even in the field, right? What was something that you like to do when you did have free time? And of course, there are some of you out there that maybe had very, very, very little free time, and you were grateful to get that free time and you just used it to sleep maybe. But otherwise, some people may have had a lot of free time. But I want to know, nonetheless, what was it you did with your free time when you did get that free time? Comment down below, whether it was a combat deployment, non-combat deployment, or hell, just going to the field. I do actually even have a couple of videos that I did where I talked about like combat deployments, and so that way if you want to know a little bit more about like combat deployments, check out any of these two videos that I got right here. Check out those links down in the description box down below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that thumbs up. I'm Christopher Chaos. Thanks for hanging out and watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.